WA's corruption watchdog has a new boss and a new brief to focus its extraordinary powers on high-level corruption and organised crime. The state government wants the Corruption and Crime Commission in this state to manage a delicate balancing act, simultaneously teaming up with police to fight organised crime, while at the same time vigorously investigating complaints against police officers. Queensland's Crime and Misconduct Commission already does both, and some of its officers shared the lessons of their operation at an international anti-corruption conference in Perth this week. Warren Strange is one of the Commission's most senior officers, and I spoke with him earlier. Warren Strange, welcome to 7:30 WA.
Hello, Andrew.
In WA, our Corruption and Crime Commission has often found itself at the centre of very intense public debate, the subject of serious criticism. Is that a unique experience, do you think, or is that the lot of these anti-corruption agencies right around the country?
Certainly not a unique experience, Andrew. The work that agencies like the CCC do, and like my organisation, the Crime and Misconduct Commission, often it's very high profile, very high public interest, quite sensitive matters that attract significant attention, and that's from the media and many people who are interested. So it's often quite the case that controversy will happen about matters that we're looking at.
Do you think there might be a disconnect between the political and public and even media expectations of these organisations and what they can do and can actually deliver?
I think sometimes there is confusion about the proper roles of our integrity organisations, and perhaps not a clear understanding about the breadth of functions and what we are required to achieve. We're all organisations that are created by legislation, by Parliament. We're bestowed with certain functions that we have to seek to achieve, but sometimes that's not clear perhaps to members of the public, nor to some of the agencies that we work with and sometimes investigate.
Because it often seems that people are looking for a very simple scorecard. They're sort of looking for scalps, prosecutions, and if those things aren't happening in a very high profile and public way, then these organisations are judged to be failing in some way.
That's true, that happens, but we have generally a much broader remit. Most agencies have a responsibility for working with public sector agencies, police services, to build their capacity to make them more resistant to corruption and misconduct, do a lot of preventative work, a lot of capacity building work that isn't measured in actual prosecution outcomes.
Now, the conference here has heard from our Attorney-General talking about a reform process that's going through the CCC now, with the intention of shifting its focus onto serious misconduct, high-level corruption and organised crime. Now, they are already within your brief in Queensland. How does that work?
Yes, much of what is happening, but Western Australia is based on the Queensland legislative model. At the moment we have a broad jurisdiction in relation to what's termed official misconduct. We actually only investigate a small number of the total complaints that we receive. We receive well over 5,000 complaints but conduct approximately 100 misconduct investigations each year. So we are only targeting the most serious matters where there's systemic, serious, prevalent misconduct that requires our particular powers and our expertise to investigate, and we think the agency itself shouldn't, in the public interest, be the lead agency. So that's our misconduct jurisdiction. We also have a serious crime jurisdiction which enables us to investigate organised crime, paedophilia, terrorism-related offences as defined in our legislation, and that's done through a separate arm of our organisation.
And what's the key to making that work? Is it resources? I mean, that seems to be the concern here, that if the organisation is going to be charged with these responsibilities, it needs to be resourced appropriately to deal with it.
That's true. Every organisation clearly would like to be resourced properly to undertake the full range of their responsibilities. You need, I think, there are quite a few issues in managing those two functions effectively. Part of the tension on our part is, on the one hand, we're working to oversight the Queensland Police Service and to investigate serious complaints and working in partnership with them to build their integrity frameworks. On the other hand, we want to work very closely with them in our crime area in partnership through task force arrangements, and we do that simultaneously. We need to have clear separation between those functions and proper information boundaries and delineation between the staff, but you need to have an organisation that supports the allocation of appropriate resources to both of those priorities.
The Attorney-General seemed to say yesterday that he was confident that those two things, those two functions could coexist. The Chief Justice
simply acknowledge the potential for conflict of interest. In your experience, is it possible to manage that tension effectively?
I'd say yes, Andrew. We've had a 10-year history now of having the two functions from the old Criminal Justice Commission and the Queensland Crime Commission coming together in the one organisation. There are economies there. You've got one parliamentary oversight system, you've got one organisation providing corporate support and those other fundamental things that you need to run an effective organisation, but you need to observe those boundaries and be mindful of each other's respective ambits.
Okay, Mr. Strange, many thanks for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.